Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation to speak to you today. My name is Charles Ellett. I am the dairy manager at the Ethical Dairy in southwest Scotland, and I'm going to talk to you today about cow and calf dairy production from a producer's perspective. Sorry I can't be with you in person. Unfortunately, I'm currently in California with a dairy story film, which is doing the rounds of many film festivals over the coming months, but I hope to join you online for the Q&A once this presentation is complete. So without further ado, let's move forward and tell you a little bit of the history about Rainton Farm. So Rainton Farm is based in southwest Scotland, as I mentioned already, close to the town of Gatehouse of Fleet. It's been owned and managed by the Finlay family since the 1920s. And is currently managed by David Finlay and his late wife, who passed away sadly about 12 months ago. They converted the farm to organic production in 1999 and had both together completed separate diversification businesses, which included Cream of Galloway ice cream, which ran from the late 1990s through till 2023, and more recently the Ethical Dairy cheese brand, which is where most of it, or the 75% of our milk from the farm goes at the moment. The Ethical Dairy cheese came from the vision of Wilmer, as always, in that the farm used to produce cheese up until the 1970s, and it was historically done that with Dunlop cheddar cheese, and it's something that they wanted to pursue and go back to. Cream of Galloway ice cream and visitor centre was the highlight of many visits to Dumfries and Galloway for tourists. Not only could you get a wonderful array of ice creams, I think we did about 30 flavours at one point, and you can see my daughter covered in ice cream enjoying that. But the visitor centre also had an adventure playground. It had somewhere in the region of about 70,000 visits a year in its heyday in the early 2000s. But sadly, COVID put pay to that in 2020, and ultimately the refurbishments that we needed to make, the upgrades, and the insurance indeed after COVID kind of put that to bed. I think David and Wilmer had to some degree fallen out of love with ice cream as well, as it was a good product and it was a well-known, well-respected brand, but didn't feel that it gave the full story and benefits of the farm. Where was the farm in those days? Well, historically, we had, or we still have, 850 acres, about 250 acres of which is permanent woodland, and some of it ancient woodland, permanent pasture, and improved grassland. We are on a fair soil. It's a loam. It's a warm soil, but it's very stony, very shallow. So cereal production is very difficult, although it had been done in the distant past. It's a day's with the plough is a week lifting stones, and no one's got the energy for that anymore. Everything's down as grassland. Leading up to the mid 2012, we had 90 Ayrshire cross Swedish red dairy cows. Been a closed herd for many years. After an incident with BVD and going organic, they shut the herd down to a closed herd. We had around 500 sheep in the early 2000s, as well as 40 suckler beef cows, and they were Aberdeen Angus cross cows. Dairy heifers were retained using artificial insemination to gain those, and then dairy bulls and all Angus cross calves were finished on farm. But some of those dairy bull calves were taking anything over 30 months to get to a finishing stage in where we were in the past. So we wanted to make some improvements in how we manage the stock and how quickly we could release cattle from the farm to give us more grazing. So we did a few changes in the process of planning where we are today. On the dairy side, the housing and the parlour were all needing a significant upgrade. This was a real feature of why we are where we are today, and we needed to do something in terms of better housing for the cows. Calves were being separated at birth. That wasn't something we were ultimately comfortable with. The cows tolerated it, but we knew it did apply a degree of stress both to them and us. And an opportunity arose through European funding to apply for a grant for major capital investment, where they would share some of the cost of that. So we saw. So to help with the development of what was going to happen on the farm actually came from the public. We'd been given farm tours through Cream of Galway, and people would come down, meet the cows, meet the calves, see the milking happening, and have just a general discussion about how we produce food on the farm. This often brought up the question, and it came from usually from the mothers of the group, the women of the group, why are the calves not with the cows? And we gave the standard answer of, well, this is what farming is, and this is how we produce milk, and therefore this is what we have to do. But the more and more that question was asked, the more and more we questioned it ourselves. And was there a better way to do it, or a fairer way for the cows and the calves, for us to not only keep them together, but to produce milk as well? And this idea took, well, I think it was first raised in about 2008, and we didn't put the new plan in place until about 2012. So it took a lot of development. But doing these farm tours really gave us a clearer view of what the perception from the public's point of view is of how farming operates, and the points in which they actually were or weren't comfortable with what we were doing. So we saw possibilities for further diversification, and I'd also done a postgraduate diploma in organic farming with SRUC, and my dissertation for that, David had asked me to look at what was the future of the farm, and with varying options. Were we going to go out with dairy completely? Were we going to do bull beef? Were we going to do increase the sheep numbers, or have a look at cow and calf and see what you think, and see if you think it's a possibility. We were fairly also dissatisfied with the direction the UK dairy industry. It was leading much more to intensification, bigger numbers, bigger housed units, and we wanted to continue with a graze setup. We grow a lot of grass on our pastures. It's a very capable farm in terms of what we're doing, but we also wanted to look at what were the targets that the government were starting to bring in terms of net zero production, sustainability, etc. All these things were starting to be bandied around in the early 2000s, and that led to where we are today. There's an opportunity to modernise, and I mentioned there was an EU grant funding available for a new project. So this was going to give us around about 50% of the cost of developing a new site. So it was an opportunity that we thought we shouldn't miss, and we put to them that this is what we were going to do with cow and calf. Thankfully, we received the grant, but we had to find out who else was doing it. And at the time, most of it was in the Netherlands, was where we could find most of our data. We all took a trip over, visited a few farms that were doing kind of 30, 40, 50 cows, a one-man setup with on a mixed farm that were almost using the cow and calf as a way of making life easy for themselves, in terms of they could just do a once-a-day milking. They weren't having to employ staff to look after the calves. The cow was doing that part of the thing for them, and they were seeing good growth rates. And But they were doing it for about the normal standard kind of 12 weeks that you would bucket rear a calf, and encountering some problems, let's be fair. There was some degree of pneumonia kicking around. There was certainly stress involved with the separation and the weaning side of things. So we had to try and design a system that would ultimately work from the start, which we didn't crack to begin with. There was often some form of diversification involved with cow and calf, and certainly for the producers that started things off in the UK, really talking about 10 or 15 cows selling milk direct to the public. And we wanted to go in at a much bigger scale. We wanted to go in a whole herd approach and increase our numbers from the 90 cows we had at the time to somewhere close to 130. We thought that was economically where we needed to be as well. Cow and calf dairy, much more of a mixed system, and as I said, most common in the Netherlands. So not only did we design the system, but we decided to buy a kit in terms of the shed buildings itself and build it ourselves. So that was a 4-year project led by some of the senior members of the staff at the time, and we put together a shed from scratch. Some of the pictures here will show you. It was a £1.5 million complex. £500,000 was private investment, so we sold one of the cottages on the farm and raised some other funds through the family. And then £500,000 further investments being made in where the calves were originally kept is now the cheese production facility. And both of these have been a self-build. I'll show you some of the pictures. There's the farm at the beginning of the process, stripping the soil from the ground next door to what was the parlour at the time. That then developed into a great big hole, and eventually, and you probably can't see it from me, but there's the building going up in the background. And that then gave us a brand new home. We went with fairly open cubicles. We used these green ones that you can see in the top left-hand corner of the picture. So that gives the cow an opportunity to be guided into a lying space, but a great deal of flexibility in terms of where she lies. We also incorporated, you can see in the center picture there, the calf creep area is involved with those cubicles. And this was the side of the shed where we were going to give 24-hour access to the cows and the calves. We had also designed a new parlour. We looked at all sorts of options, but we thought the safest and best option for the calves would be an auto tandem parlour, which is where we have an exterior passage to the side of the cubicles where the cows stand. The cows then come in and stand side on to us in the parlour, and if the calf were to come with them, they can either walk down the side and exit in the usual manner, or they could actually join the cow in the cubicle. This really helped with letdown initially, especially the heifers coming through, where we can stand the calf at her head while she's eating her feed in the parlour, and helps to make everything relaxed. So a new design of parlour as well, and there's a kind of wider view of the cubicles. So there's a yard in front of that, a loafing area, somewhere for the cows to bull. There's a brush on the wall there for them to use to tidy themselves up and for a bit of grooming, and then your kind of standard cubicle divisions with crossovers in the middle of the shed. And the handy thing is we can gate that as we wish, and use the space as is necessary. That's just one side of the shed. On the other side of the building, we also have a more fixed creep area, and that's where we do our nighttime separation and eventual weaning when the cows are housed. But we'll get there in just a moment. So we did our first trial in the winter of 2012. And we thought, well, happy cows, everyone will be great, they're going to love this, they're going to give us loads of milk and be really, really chuffed that they've got the calves with them. What we also found was we had confused cows, and that was down to a lack of trust. What had happened in the previous setup was that the cow would calve, she would spend 24 hours with the calf, the suckling period, initial suckling, and then when she visited the parlour for the first time, as she came back out, she would join the main herd, and the calf was gone. And that was the last they would see. And we would then bucket rear the calf on from there. So the cows would come to the first milking in the parlour in the new setup, and then go back to the calving box and find a calf and go, okay, what's happening here? Don't get this. And obviously they would visit again the next day, and they go back and this calf was still there. And the cows didn't trust us. They were just like, right, okay, at some point you bastards are going to take these calves away. When's it going to happen? So they would refuse to come to the parlour. We had them holding on to milk. They were getting mastitis. They were getting lame in some cases. And they were not happy at all. Very stressful for them, very stressful for us, because this is a whole new management thing for us as well. And we were trying to change things on a almost sometimes a daily basis to say, well, this isn't working. Let's try this. Let's put things in there for the calves to play with and to distract them from the milk, because we got to a point when we had no cow back in calf. We had about 200 litres of milk in the tank, and we were having to physically take the calves off in order to get the cows to the parlour, because they were just so stressed about what was going on. And as I say, not showing estrus, holding back milk solids, and we were still learning how we needed to work the system, and we weren't getting it right. There's no bones about it. So in the end, this carried on from October through till February, and at February, David just said, look, stop. We're going to have to do a major rethink on this. Let's go back to what we were doing while we have a look at it. And I think that was a point where we thought, well, we've tried, we've given it our best shot, but it's not working and it's not possible. However, there was a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. So we had to have a bit of a rethink, and that rethink took probably a period of 4 years, looking at how other people could do it. To improve milk letdown, it was about the cows learning. I think at the most part, they had to learn to trust us. Trust is a huge part of this system. They have to understand the whole mechanism of what we're doing, and that we are now working in partnership with them. They're not working for us, because if they don't want to give you the milk, they won't. And certainly as the calf grows through the system, keeping that milk production going becomes harder and harder. We also had to look at how we stimulate estrus. Our colostrum management wasn't fantastic at the time. We were relying on the calf getting its colostrum direct from mum. We thought, well, with a suckling system, the calf, that's its only source of food, that colostrum would be good, but perhaps not taking into account younger cows, heifers that were coming through, didn't have a strong colostrum, and they were the ones that were then potentially bringing in the likes of crypto and spreading that around the shed. Those that survived the crypto ended up with pneumonia. That was another journey we had to go on to discover how to resolve that, all of which I'm going to talk about with you in a moment. And we definitely had to improve our calf mortality. It wasn't great. It was a very difficult time for everybody. But we could see there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And scientists were coming from University of Glasgow Vet School and things, and saying, this is a great idea, it just needs to be refined. And our vets were very, very supportive, giving us lots of information and helping us to put the right protocols in place. We were maybe a bit lax with our timescale management as well, so we had to become a lot stricter and try and set defining points within the system where those management changes would take place. And weaning was a big problem, because we had no way to, apart from doing nighttime separation and giving them a set amount of hours through the night where we weren't in contact with the cow, at the end of the day, there would still be a point where we had to just shut the gate and say, that's it, no more milk. And that could be very stressful for them and very difficult for us, because it involved a lot of noise and a lot of unhappiness from the cows. And these are all things we were trying to avoid. So where are we now? Well, we now have 120 dairy cows. We've gone with a three-way cross. We started off, I think I showed you in the first slide, that we had Ayrshire Swedish Red crosses, and going forward, even back in 2008, we knew that one of the issues we had was trying to maintain body condition on these cows. So we'd added in the Mont Béliard as a way of a dual-purpose animal that would still maintain our milk and solids, but we needed would help us to put body condition on the cows. That was great and worked, but what it did do was it meant there was a little bit fall in milk, so we went back to a Holstein as a three-way cross, and we're now maintained that cross for the best part of 10 years, and we have now basically generated a pro cross that works for the system that we're in. Anything that's served AI is kept a generation away from what it was. So Swedish Red crosses to Mont Béliard crosses Holstein, and then Holstein goes back to Swedish Red. So and that's how we maintain our cross. All the dairy heifers are retained, and we've done that ourselves. That did lead to some difficulties because we've had to go through various management changes. I myself have only been back at the farm for 8 years. When I first rejoined the farm, we weren't using sex semen, so obviously you got a 50-50 chance for a bull or heifer. Some years were good, some years were bad, and that didn't help us to build the numbers and retain the numbers that we needed. And all the bulls from the dairy bulls and the Angus cross calves, whether male or female, were finished on the farm. We're now pasture for life registered as well, so the cows don't receive any cereals. In fact, they don't even receive any additional minerals anymore. We cut that out about 4 or 5 years ago. That was something that was put to us that would be a major problem in terms of fertility, body condition, general health of the animals. Through our land management and the diversity in our pastures, we have seen no negative effects for cutting those out, and I think in fact we've got healthier, happier animals because of it. So when the cow calves now, they spend 24 hours together. They are isolated in a pen, but that pen is 3 meters by 3 meters in size, bedded down with sawdust, as you can see in the picture. We went away from a straw-based system when we moved into this new building, because in the southwest of Scotland, getting hold of straw is a very costly thing, and looking probably somewhere in the region of about £60-70 a tonne, if not more, where we are just now. Back in the day, it was still £40 a tonne, something like that. So sawdust, we're in a forestry area, so getting hold of good quality sawdust was never going to be an issue. And we like to think it's a liquid system. Everything can just scrape out, be pulled away by a tractor, and go through the slurry store. So calves are isolated with mum for 24 hours, making sure that they have that good bond together, and if required, we will help the calf to suckle. A lot of the time, especially if it's a heifer replacement, you can see in the picture, they are super quick up on the feet and get in and suckle themselves, which is perfect. I firmly believe the less intervention that I make, the better we end up with the results of bonding and the calf being able to find what it's looking for. But this is within the first 2 hours of birth. We're also, once they've had that first suckle, we are tubing them with 4 litres of fresh colostrum, and once we take the cow to the parlour for the first time, we retain that colostrum, and then we freeze it we have freezer bags that we can use They go into the main freezer, and then we have a water bath, which over a period of about 30 minutes defrosts that for the next calf that is born. So it's a collar quick system if you want to look it up, and very effective, works really well for us. At that point as well, so within the first 2 hours of birth, so they've suckled, they've been tubed, they get tagged, and anything that is male is a rubber ring is applied to the testicles to castrate them, and that's it. That's my contact. After that, I am monitoring their repeated suckling. We have some cameras in the shed, but spend a lot of time down there as well, and just watching what's happening, their interactions together, that the calf's repeatedly getting up. It is very, very quiet in the shed, and if it's not, then that's when I know there's an issue, and that could be a cow calling for its calf, or a calf calling for its mother, saying, I'm hungry, I need someone to come and help me get the idea of this. Obviously, some of the older cows, they've got a lower udder, perhaps quite large teats, and it takes a bit of training. And boy calves, male calves are just a nightmare. They really are difficult. They just need their mum, and those are probably the ones we have to intervene with the most, and get them started on the teat. But eventually we get there every time, and we've never had a cow or a calf that kind of rejects each other, thankfully, and we'll work it out between us. Once the isolation period ends, that first 24 hours, and I'm confident that the cow is well, she's had a bit of time to recover herself, and we do give her a large bucket of warm water at the point of calving, so that helps to rehydrate her before we start her on some food, and I want to see, hopefully she's going to have cleansed in that time period as well, and that she's bonding well with the calf. So as long as I'm happy with all of those things, the way we've designed the calving area is I have 12 calving boxes, which seems like a lot for 120 cows, but these cows and calves are going to stay together in there for a minimum of 3 days. And that helps to establish little groups. We can open up the calving box themselves. That allows the cow to come out, and they have their own feed station close by. They'll then start to go out, mingle with the other cows, interact with each other. After about 48 hours, the calves start to interact with each other, and anybody that has calved in a similar time scale becomes a little gang together. They become a little group that is bonded together as a support network, and can then move forward into the main shed. So it helps establish a bond, as I said, allows for observation and monitoring. And then cows and calves move into the main group in the barn. As I say, we try to move cows and calves as a small group together. So anyone that's calved within 48 hours of each other, we will wait until the youngest animal is 3 days of age, and then move them together through into the main barn, rather than put individuals through that could get bullied by the more dominant cows. And I also want to make sure that once I move them through, that the calves are happy and are not going to get lost in the group. By the time we get to the end of a 9-week calving period, there could be 40, 50 plus cows in that group. That's quite an environment for a young calf to land in, if it hasn't got that support from others. Not just its mum. If it's got a little pal of its own, one of its peers, then often you'll see the two of them wandering around together and sussing what's going on. So that really helps. For the first 5 months of that calf's life, mum is only milked once a day, which is quite nice for us as well. It limits the amount of time we have to spend in the parlour. We don't separate at milking time. If the calf comes to the parlour, that's not a problem. As I've mentioned, the parlour is designed in such a way that there are areas where the calf can walk through the system and not come to any harm. And we felt that that's trying to force separation only made the cows more stressed. So what tends to happen, in all honesty, is that the calves come for the first maybe week, 10 days. They'll want that close attachment to mum. They're not confident to be left behind. But the more and more time goes on, they go, well, why am I coming to the parlour? Why am I spending my time standing on the collecting yard? There's no need for me to be here. So I'm just going to wait back in the creep area or in the cubicles, and the cows become very confident in leaving them and heading to the parlour. We maintain the parlour routine at all times. So regardless if they have a calf with them or without, the protocols in the parlour are exactly the same. That you know what cows are like. Cows like consistency. And if people are trying to do things differently all the time, changing times of day that cows are being milked, changing the routine in the parlour, it just unsettles them. So maintaining all the staff, regardless of who's milking, are all trained to milk in a specific manner. Once the calves get to 6 weeks of age, then we start to isolate them at night. We've found that calf is getting on for 150 plus kilos by that time. They are copying mum's behaviour and starting to eat some of the silage that's there for the cows, or grazing outside for those that are born in the springtime. They are starting to get into some of the hard nuts, and we use a lucerne pellet for the cows in the parlour. The same stuff is fed to all the other stock on the farm as well. And they've started to spend more time in the creep area. You see their behaviour change from a calf that is wanting to be with mum most of the time or lay near her, to a calf that is now running around with its peers and just visiting mum for food. So we start to separate the calves at night, and that's usually about 4 o'clock in the evening through till 7:30, something like that in the morning. Because once we don't let the calves go back to the cow until we've put her through the parlour in the morning. Cows are fed with parlour nuts in the evening on top of the silage that you can see there in the top picture. While the cows are nibbling away at the nuts, then that's the point where we walk down behind them and just gather up the calves and pop them into the creep area and close the gates. So they have maintained visual contact. They can have some touch contact through the gates and the railings. They can be seen at all times by the cows. And it's just about building routine. The more consistently you do it at a specific time, the more they get used to it. And the first week is always exciting because the calves are trying to run around and dodging going into the creep. By the time we get into week 3, week 4, you'll turn up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, turn the lights on, the calves know what's happening, they know you're coming down, they get the last suckle from mum, and then 70% of them could be laid in the creep already, because they know what's going to be asked of them. And the cows are very confident. Again, it's that routine. Cows knows what's coming. She's going to get a bit free time. As a parent myself, I can appreciate that free time is not something you get a lot of, and I'm sure that separation time. It's also the point of the evening when we find that the most activity happens. In terms of bulling activity, and a really good heads up as to what's happening in there. We monitor the calves' daily live weight gains, so at the point where we separate them overnight, we weigh them. We'll then do that again 6 weeks later, and right the way through to weaning, so we know what we're looking for. A full weaning happens between 5 and 6 months, and we're looking for a calf that is around about 250 kilos or more. We are confident then that they are in a position to go forward by themselves. We know they're onto hard feed, they've had the nighttime separation, and they can look after themselves. It takes about 8 to 9 days for the whole weaning process to happen. We use a plastic tab. It doesn't have any spikes or anything on it. It's just a flat tab, fits into the septum of the calf, and just grips on. Some of them fall out, need to be replaced in an evening, that's absolutely fine. It's not a big hassle. All we've done is cut off the contact to the milk, but we are allowing the physical contact between mother and calf. So that helps to reduce the stress, gets them used to the new idea, the new management, which is that in an evening, rather than separating, we then take the cow to the parlour, we milk the cow again, and purely by the fact that cows walk through the parlour and the calves stay in the collecting yard, that does that separation process for us, and then they're separated again overnight. By having that separation point from 6 weeks of age, that is really the start of this weaning process. So they've already become confident with their peers, they've already found their own sources of food, they've got their own small brushes in that side so they can groom themselves, they start to build these relationships. So the more and more we do this, and the more we bring in heifers that have been born in the system, the more that these transitions go smoothly, because they know the system. This is the shed they were born in, and they've experienced this all before. So it just gets better and better over time. From the point of weaning, cows, as I say, are milked twice a day, and that carries on through till for the remainder of the lactation. And we're looking at producing a cow that is now on a fully pasture-based diet, giving us somewhere in the region of about 4,000 litres. The very best will do a bit more, and some will do less, but as an average, we're looking for 4,000 litres and rear a calf as well. And we reckon that calf is taking 2,000 to 2,500 litres of our milk. We have finished our calves on pasture ourselves. We have the facilities here to do that, some more further sheds to overwinter them in the following year, and we can usually finish them anything up from 500 kilos within 18 months. So they grow super fast, and they are fit, strong, healthy on a fully pasture diet. We have also recently sold them directly to another Pasture for Life farm, also organic, and they finished them on a mob grazing setup, produced some wonderful calves up near St Andrews. That's worked very well for us. That's released forage for us on the farm and allowing us to look at potentially increasing the size of the herd in the future. Stress. I've also already mentioned stress. We aim to keep that to an absolute minimum at all times. That's really important. If the animal is stressed, she is not going to give us milk in the parlour, and it has a huge detriment on their health overall. I know myself, having suffered mental health issues in the recent past, that stress is a big factor in how well someone becomes well once they're ill. Someone who's under a lot of stress will take longer to recover from any potential health issue, but if you take stress out, it just provides that healthier environment, and animals will perform in that kind of system. We make any changes very slowly, and we don't change more than one thing at a time. So we're not changing our feed for production. We're not doing that at the same time as weaning. We're not serving the cows at the point where we do our nighttime separation. We're trying to make those small independent changes outside of each other, so there's only one other change happening. And again, stress has a big effect on fertility as well. So there we are. Slow weaning process. Sometimes it takes 10 days, sometimes it takes 2 weeks, sometimes it takes 7 days. It's dependent on the group. The more we go on with this, the quicker we seem to be able to. Probably a week is the very minimum that we would go to. And as I mentioned, the quiet weaning tabs. We've also got to have the right people on board. It's been a journey of discovery for me. I was there right at the start, but in that once that first trial was over, I actually left and went to a 1,500 cow farm to gain more experience as a herdsman. I was operating as a stockman when we first did the trial, but found that was an environment and a farming system that I really didn't want to be part of. I was very happy when David offered me the opportunity 8 years ago to come back and give it another go. They had a lot of these things in places, but just needed to tighten and strengthen the management of the farm. We've also employed another stockman who has had similar experience to myself, and indeed we have a young chap on the farm who's only joined us in the last few months with no experience whatsoever, but wanted to be in a farming system and wanted to be in a farming system that was different and offers, we hope, and our kind of slogan is, it's for the cows, it's for the people, and it's for the environment as well. And we all have a good setup. We work a 10-day on, 4-day off shift pattern, and those times of day change from a 9-10 hour days are probably an average, but calving times throw up longer days, and that's fine. We calve 9 weeks at a time from October to December and March through till May. So busy times of the year, but otherwise we have a nice life, and we have an opportunity to have a life. And with young families and things, that's really important. We get that right balance for everybody. And I think this probably, I don't know who might have seen this in the past, but I will take an opportunity to read it to you, because I think it's really poignant and it really spoke to me as to why I do what I do. It says, from time to time, people tell me, lighten up, it's just a cow. Or that's a lot of money for just a cow. They don't know the distance travelled, the time spent, or the costs involved for just a cow. Some of the proudest moments have come with just a cow. Many hours have passed and my only companion was just a cow. But I did not once feel slighted. Some of my saddest moments have been brought about by just a cow, and in those days of darkness, the gentle touch of just a cow gave me comfort and reason to overcome the day. If you too think it's just a cow, then you will probably understand phrases like just a friend, just a sunrise, or just a promise. Just a cow brings into my life the very essence of friendship, trust, and pure, unbridled joy. Just a cow brings out the compassion and patience that makes me a better person. Because of just a cow, I will rise early, stay in the barn for hours, and look longingly into the future. So for me and folks like me, it's not just a cow, but an embodiment of the hopes and dreams of the future, the fond memories of the past, and the pure enjoyment of the moment. Just a cow brings out what's good in me and diverts my thoughts away from myself and the worries of the day. I hope that someday they can understand that it's not just a cow, but the thing that gives me humanity and keeps me from being just a human. For the next time you hear the phrase just a cow, just smile, because they don't understand. I don't know who wrote that, but whoever it was is a genius, and I hope to shake them by the hand one day, because that just overwhelmingly speaks to me about why I do what I do. The farm is not only about cow and calf production, it's also about land management. It's really had an impact on how we view the environment, how we manage the farm, and our hopes and aspirations for meeting the targets that the government has put forward. David was an advisor for Scottish agriculture colleges in his previous life before he came back to take over the farm, and has really changed his whole mindset into the organic production and regenerative practices. So in the past 15 years, we've seen an increase of soil organic matter, 5 tonnes per hectare per year, an increase in available soil nutrients without any additional applications, an increase of silage yield approximate to pre-organic yield, an increase in biodiversity, species rich beyond those experienced at local nature specific sites. And we have now been independently audited as net zero. And there is literally probably a handful of those throughout the UK. So we can see that by creating the right environment for nature, that's helped things to flourish. That's helped our grass production. That's created soil biodiversity, and those things then flow back into the herd and into the cheese, which is the ultimate result of what we're doing. But it's about taking solar energy to produce good quality food going forward, and we think we're really achieving that now. Some of the studies we've taken part in, done a farm audit, we've done several of those now, how cow and calf system performs in terms of human, animal, environmental and financial health. We're currently in a second stage of that now that they're reviewing that study that was done probably about 10 years ago. The effect of maternal investment on milk yield in the cow and calf system, that's an independent paper that was done by a postgrad student, and you should be able to find that online. Very interesting study. Essentially, give you the basic background of that is that the cow with a heifer calf foot will give you more milk in the parlour because she will spend more time grooming a male calf and will be more of a sharing cow. It was one of the key reasons we've now gone to sex semen, and we feel that we've seen the benefit of that, and that's rung true. But that was done in 2020 remotely by looking through using the cameras in the farm and data that was available on the computer. Farmer surveys, challenges and positives of adopting a cow and calf system. We've also taken part in that study, and I think we've all found that this is a much more agreeable way of farming for us. As I've mentioned, the benefits of having a family life and an opportunity to do other things off farm, but just the whole joy of working with these cows in a system that is much more of a family unit. It's just wonderful. I love it, absolutely. We would never go back to doing it the way we did. Future plans, well, colostrum study currently going on with the University of Glasgow Vet School, so they're looking at a conventional system with a similar number of cows that is doing the standard bucket rearing separation against the blood sample from our farm, which obviously we've just talked about. So that'll be interesting to see the results of that. We're participating in the Transform DairyNet project. I'm sure you're aware of it. European-wide project on cow and calf dairy systems. Really enjoying our time with that, given our experience and helping to others to move forward. But we're constantly being contacted by farmers to say, how are you doing it? What are you doing? And where can we adopt these same practices? So it's fantastic to see that coming forward. Trying to establish new markets. Obviously, we've got liquid milk, we've got cheese, but we've also got the beef from the farm, and people are often looking for pasture for life registered beef products, and working with butchers and abattoirs to bring that to market as well. And as I say, working with others, cow-calf contact farmers to develop a European and international standard for cow-calf systems as well. We're seeing some of that work through Transform DairyNet, but we're also trying to do that on a UK level by having an association of cow and calf farmers. When we first began looking at this, there was nobody doing cow and calf in the UK. We now have around 30 farmers doing cow and calf contract, from farms that are 5 to 10 cows through to the 120 plus that we have. So and they're spread right across the UK. As I say, we see that happening more and more, but we feel now is the time to bring us all together, start to maintain a minimum standard of production, and get the word out there of what we're doing. And we also have, to help with that, a documentary was filmed here on the farm back in 2021. They started to film it. It's now going around the film festivals worldwide, really, which is why I'm over in California at the moment. And I've attached the trailer for the film, so I hope you enjoy that, and I will speak to you in a moment.
People were coming to the farm who had no idea about farming. They would be aghast.
We were asked this question, or asked that question: why are the newborn dairy calves not with their mothers?
So in a normal system, calves are taken off mum at anything within 2 hours.
They have a whole social structure and hierarchy that develops and evolves over time. And we're breaking that all the time, we're breaking that.
What if we give the cows and calves a better life? Leave the calves with their mothers for several months and see what happens. And it was as basic as that.
It came from both of us, but it certainly came from David. He wanted it to work.
It was probably as bleak a time as I can remember in farming. A lot of people were praying that it would fail.
It's such an unusual sight, isn't it? I still can't quite get my head around it.
Cows and calves.
Well, these sort of cows. and calves.
Dairy cows, yes.
Most farmers still think we're mad. But if people are thinking of doing cow and calf, they come to us and say, how are you doing it?
So I very much hope that in the near future you'll have an opportunity to see the film. I've seen it over half a dozen times now, and it is
People are coming.
fantastic. But yes, very much hope that you get to see that in time. If you have any questions outside of the Q&A this afternoon, and you would like to get into contact, then very simply it's charles@theethicaldairy.co.uk is my email address, and david@theethicaldairy is David's email address. So please feel free to get in contact with us at any time. If you'd like to come for a visit, I know there was a student coming from Estonia to stay with us this summer as part of her veterinary practice. So all these opportunities are available. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I look forward to your questions. Thanks again.